March 11, 2025. The United States Mint releases a short, clinical announcement. Temporary suspension of American Silver Eagle production. Not a slowdown, a full stop. The language is familiar, the kind bureaucracies use when they don't want panic. But the message is unmistakable. They blame supply chain disruptions. 7 days later, on March 18th, the Royal Canadian Mint imposes dealer allocations for the first time in 37 years. You can no longer order what you need. You receive only what they decide to release. On March 23rd, all the way in Australia, the Perth Mint quietly extends delivery times to 16 weeks, 4 months of waiting for products that once shipped in 3 days. And here's the part that cuts through the noise. These events are not random, not isolated, not bad luck. They are symptoms of the same disease, a coordinated, global failure. The world's largest sovereign mints are running out of physical silver. Not gradually, not theoretically, right now. When mints go dark, the entire retail silver market loses its anchor. Production is the heartbeat of the system, and once it stops, everything that depends on it starts suffocating. Over the next 15 minutes, we're going to walk through the machinery that is failing in real time. 3 critical layers collapsing simultaneously. Refiners who cannot source raw material. Mints who cannot get the refined blanks. Dealers who cannot access finished products. When all 3 fail together, the end result is not a shortage. It is a blackout. Layer 1 begins where the world's silver supply is born. Raw extraction. Silver comes from 3 places: primary mining, byproduct mining, and recycling. And in 2025, all 3 are breaking at the same time. Start with primary silver mines. There are only 23 mines on Earth producing more than 5 million ounces annually. That sounds impressive until you realize that, collectively, they supply only around 200 million ounces per year, barely 1/5 of global demand. The remaining 80% is tied to base metal mining, but even that limited primary supply is shrinking. The largest primary producer in Mexico cut its production guidance for 2025 by 8%, not because they want to limit output, because the ore is running thin. The highest grade material is gone, like the low-hanging fruit humanity picked clean during the 20th century. What remains takes more processing, more water, more energy, and more cost to extract less silver. The second largest producer, Pan American Silver, has delayed expansion projects, citing permits and capital constraints. But anyone studying the economics knows the translation. You cannot justify billion-dollar investments when the prices of base metals stagnate and silver fails to rise enough to offset rising costs. And this isn't just 1 or 2 companies. Kerr Mining, Hecla, Mag Silver. Every major producer is reporting the same trend: declining ore grades, delayed projects, reduced output. The world is entering a phase where the rich, easy silver is no longer available, and the deeper deposits carry energy burdens the industry isn't ready to finance. If primary producers are shrinking, what about the 70% of silver that emerges as a byproduct from zinc, lead, and copper operations? This is where the picture becomes structural. Miners do not dig for silver. They dig for copper and zinc and lead. Silver simply tags along for the ride, which means silver supply is enslaved to base metal demand, and base metal demand is weakening. Copper prices are choppy. Zinc is depressed. Lead is stagnant. A mining company decides on a new project based on the profitability of the main metal. If copper doesn't justify a $10 billion new mine, that mine never gets built, and the silver associated with it never exists. This is not a temporary mismatch. It's a trap, a structural limit. To solve a silver shortage, you would need an explosion in copper demand, or a dramatic spike in zinc prices, or a revival of lead mining. None of that is happening. In fact, capital expenditure plans from the largest diversified miners show no major projects with significant silver byproduct scheduled before the year 2030. That's 5 years of flat supply locked in. If mining cannot expand, perhaps recycling offers salvation. The industry has been selling the dream of urban mining for more than a decade, but the numbers shatter that illusion. Electronics recycling captures only 18% of silver in devices. That means 82% is lost forever. The dream of recovering tiny amounts of metal from millions of phones collapses under economic reality. The silver content is too microscopic. The extraction cost too high. Solar panels are worse. They lock silver inside for more than 25 years. And when they finally reach end of life, recycling them is expensive and inconvenient. Most panels go to landfills, which means the silver inside them is buried for decades. Industrial waste recycling performs better, maybe 50% recovery. But modern manufacturing is designed to reduce silver use, not generate waste. The math is immutable. Recycling adds perhaps 150 million ounces each year. Global demand is nearly 1.2 billion ounces. Recycling cannot fill the gap. Not today, not tomorrow, not with current technology. And so refiners are looking at a shrinking world, declining mining output, insufficient recycling, exploding demand. The first bottleneck appears. Refiners cannot secure enough raw material, and delivery times extend. What used to take 2 weeks now takes 6, 8, even 12. Refiners are scraping the edges of the supply chain, competing for scrap, bidding against each other. Swiss giants like Harrah's, Metalor, and Valcambi are offering premiums above spot price just to secure feedstock. $2 over spot, 3, 4. That extra cost rolls forward, first to the mints, then to the dealers, then to you. Layer 1 is cracking, and when the foundation crumbles, the structure above it cannot stand. Now we move to layer 2, where the world's silver becomes recognizable, coins and bars, the mints. But the truth is simple. Mints do not mine silver. They do not refine silver. They only stamp refined blanks. And right now, those blanks are evaporating. The United States Mint's March 2025 suspension is the clearest signal yet. They blamed supply chain disruptions, but that phrase is a mask. What they mean is, we cannot get blanks. Their approved suppliers like Sunshine Minting and Ohio Precious Metals cannot deliver because they are being outbid. Private mints offer higher premiums, foreign governments secure long-term contracts. Industrial giants lock in material years in advance. The United States Mint, restrained by government procurement rules and budgets, cannot simply raise prices. They drown in paperwork while others seize supply. And so, the most recognized silver coin on Earth, the American Silver Eagle, stops production. Not because the mint cannot run machines, but because the machines have nothing left to stamp. The Royal Canadian Mint is not far behind. For decades, dealers could call and order hundreds of maple leaf coins with effortless immediacy. Now the system has inverted. Dealers submit requests, and the mint decides what they will receive, 100 coins. 50, sometimes none at all. Delivery times stretch from a single week to 3 months. This is not logistics, it is drought. They cannot manufacture what they cannot source. Across the world, the Perth Mint faces the same tightening noose. 16-week delivery times, some products suspended entirely, and Perth is known for efficiency, for precision, for scale. But none of that matters when feedstock dries up. Their machines sit ready, their workforce trained, their capacity enormous yet without silver blanks. The entire assembly line becomes a museum piece. This is the moment the alarm should ring. These are sovereign mints, institutions backed by national governments, with capital, connections, and preferred access. If the giants cannot secure material, the smaller entities never stood a chance. Private mints are the first casualties. They rely on spot market blanks, and spot blanks are disappearing completely. Harrah's stopped taking new blank orders in February. Metalor is quoting 20-week lead times. Sunshine Minting is prioritizing long-term partners and turning away anyone new. Private operators describe the same grim reality. They are burning through the last inventory on their shelves. One mint owner said plainly, "We have 6 weeks of blanks left, maybe 8. After that, we shut down. There is no backup plan. No hidden reserve, no emergency pipeline. Once their stockpile is gone, production stops indefinitely." This triggers a chain reaction. When the United States Mint stops producing eagles, dealers pivot to the Canadian maple leaf. When the Canadian Mint restricts allocations, dealers pivot to Perth Mint coins and bars. When Perth extends timelines, dealers pivot to private mint generics. But private mints are already running dry. And when they fall, there is no final fallback. The system hits a wall. Layer 3 collapses next. The dealers. The people who actually sell silver to the public. In normal times, large online dealers APMEX, JM Bullion, SD Bullion, Provident carry thousands of ounces in stock, ready to ship. But today, most of them operate on allocations, pre-sales, and hope. Inventory levels are the lowest since the chaos of 2020. But 2020 still had one thing 2025 no longer has: functioning mints. Without production, dealers cannot refill what they sell. Delivery times tell the story. Once 2 days, then a week, now 6 weeks or more. Items marked in stock may take a month to ship. Other products simply vanish from listings entirely. No restock date, no explanation. Premiums reveal the final stage of scarcity. 3 years ago, American Silver Eagles sold for $2 over spot. Generic rounds for $1. Today, Eagles are $8 to $10 over, generics $5 to $6, and those numbers climb weekly. That is not normal markup. That is scarcity pricing. Dealers pay more because their suppliers demand more. And the public pays more because the dealers themselves are barely getting any supply. But the greatest danger comes from the shadows. When legitimate product is scarce, counterfeiters move in. Fake Silver Eagles from China. tungsten-filled bars, copies of packaging that fool the casual eye. Local dealers report a spike in attempted fraud. Some counterfeits are so refined they mimic weight and dimensions almost perfectly. The trust that anchors the precious metals market begins to fracture. Buyers hesitate, dealers become suspicious. Verification costs increase, pushing premiums even higher. Fragmentation replaces transparency. This is not hypothetical. It is happening now. Reddit communities filled with reports of 8-week delays for supposedly in-stock items, dealers canceling orders they cannot fill, buyers paying $10 over spot simply because it is the only offer available. These are the surface symptoms. Underneath, three forces collide to produce the perfect storm. The first is industrial demand. Solar panel installations doubled in 2024, and every panel uses silver paste. Electric vehicle production surged by 40% year over year, and each electric car requires nearly twice the silver of a combustion engine vehicle. 5G network expansion continues globally, with every tower and node requiring silver components. Medical devices, electronics, defense systems, every sector is consuming more silver than ever before. Industrial demand hit 680 million ounces in 2024 and is projected to reach 750 million in 2025. 150 million ounces of new consumption in just 2 years. The second force is investment demand. Inflation may ebb and flow, but the public no longer trusts central bank narratives. Real interest rates remain negative. Currency debasement continues. Gold at $2,000 feels unreachable for many retail investors. Silver, the traditional hedge of the working class, becomes the obvious refuge. Exchange-traded funds see their highest inflows since 2021. Retail buying at local shops and online dealers reaches levels not seen since the 2011 silver rush. Investment demand added 250 million ounces in 2024. A flood. The third force is geopolitical fragmentation. The past 30 years of globalized metal flows are ending. Russia, once a reliable exporter, is cut off by sanctions. China is restricting refined metal exports and quietly stockpiling strategic reserves. Mexico and Peru, major silver producers, introduce quotas and tighten control of mining output. Each nation looks inward, prioritizing domestic industry over global markets. The era of silver moving freely across borders is fading. Mints dependent on international supply chains are choking. These three forces strike at the same time. Industrial consumption explodes, investment demand surges, global supply chains fragment, refiners cannot source metal, mints cannot acquire blanks, dealers cannot replenish stock, a synchronized collapse. So what happens when the mints remain dark? Picture the sequence. The United States Mint extends suspension indefinitely. Eagles vanish. Dealers redirect demand toward Canada. Canada's allocations fall to 10% of normal volume. Dealers pivot to Perth. Perth stops taking new orders. Dealers pivot to private mints. Private mints shut down. And then nothing. No supply. Not at any price. At that point, premiums do not rise. They detonate. $10 over spot becomes 20, then 30, then 50. People desperate to escape weakening currency bid up the few ounces that surface. And because the bottleneck begins at layer 1 raw extraction, there is no quick fix. You cannot restart a mine in a month. Increasing extraction takes years, sometimes decades. Dealers with inventory become gatekeepers. Priority customers receive first access. Purchase limits appear. Verification processes tighten. The market splits into insiders and outsiders. And if you are not already connected, you are locked out. Paper markets decouple from physical reality. Futures contracts trade at $30. Physical silver sells at $70. The difference becomes a monument to counterparty risk. Those holding paper claims learn the hard way that paper promises mean nothing when the underlying metal no longer exists in accessible form. This is not a fantasy scenario. Every step is unfolding in real time. The machine is breaking, and the people who act before the blackout are insulated from the chaos that follows. Those who wait for confirmation, for headlines, for official announcements, will discover they waited too long. The window is not measured in months, it is measured in weeks, possibly days.